All right, so now that we have all the data pulled in, now we get to do the fun part, making it look all jazzy, making it look nice. So one thing that I like to start off with is just get all of the table titles to be bold. That's just one thing I prefer to have. So that's just Command B or Control B, whatever your console you're using. And then I also like to get everything centered on it. So we'll go ahead and hit the center. And then I like to usually put some sort of style around it, kind of like I have over here. So we can change the border. Just go to all borders. That's usually a good way to start it out. And then up here, kind of just center it out too. Sometimes I would hide that entire row, but the problem is that's where we have this located, which is important for switching. So I'm not going to do that in this situation. And then as you can see down here, I have this double line. I usually like to do that whenever I'm like summing something, which I will do in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and put that double bottom border on there. And then so down here, I like to do something like totals. So I'll come down here and I'll go to totals, and so now I'm just going to go ahead and type in the sum formula, and then I'm going to drag it for this entire column down to where we have that double line. And then as you can see, that is summing up all of that. And then what we can do is drag this across, and then we're going to get the sum for all of these things. And then just as I did before, I'm going to go ahead and keep this centered. Another thing I like to do to just make it look a little bit cleaner is keep the decimals the same for all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll put one decimal spot there. Another thing that I like to do is keep like passing and then rushing and receiving different colors. This can apply to really anything. It doesn't have to be fantasy football. So I'm going to go ahead and for the yards, change this all to the color I usually do. Yeah, purple. And this is going to go, this is rushing, so we'll go ahead and change this to red for rushing. Receiving is also R, so but I usually just do green for that, so I'm going to go ahead and put a green there. I don't typically have kicker data, so I don't really know what I would do in that situation. One thing I noticed though is this just says yards because it doesn't have the row above it like Pro Football Focus had when you imported it. So I'll go ahead and change this to passing yards, passing touchdowns, interceptions, and we'll do rush yards. Oops. And then rush TDs, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. And the reason I clarify that is because I'm going to go ahead and make this into a table. And when you make something into a table and it has the same header label, it'll make it a 2. So instead of it saying yards and yards, it would say yards and then yards 2. And that just kind of bothers me, so I tend to avoid letting that happen. And then I'm going to go ahead and make this into a table. So quick on the new Excel is you can just click Format as a Table and then click whichever one you want. Yes, your table has headers. So you're going to click Yes, and then you can just name it something. So I would just name it Projections. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and keep it all white there. All right, so another thing that's kind of nice to do is to do some conditional formatting where you would make this a certain color based off whatever position they are. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So what you can do is you can come into a text that contains. So I'm in the conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, and then text that contains. So I'm going to go ahead and type in QB. And then what I'm going to do is do a custom format for QBs, and I like to make it match whatever their stat color is. So QBs would be the passing stats. So once that loads up for me, I'm just going to go to the fill, and I'm going to change it to that same color. Then hit OK. And then we're going to go and do another one of these, text that contains. And I'll type in running back, and then we'll come down here to custom format again. And we'll change this to that orangish red. Black. Okay, and then we'll do it again. Text that contains, and we'll do wide receiver. Custom format. Black and fill and green. And then we'll do one more for the tight ends, just for completion's sake. Let's see. I usually do like a light bluish, so we'll do this one. Font, automatic. Alright, so now we have all of this, and it's the same colors where their stats typically would be. Let's see if it works when we change teams. Yep, so it's still adjusting. based off whatever it is. That's what's good about conditional formatting. Another one that's cool to do is you can just make it so like green is for the higher stats, red is for the lower stats. So we're going to come over to conditional formatting again, go to color scales, and you can really pick from whichever one you like. Sometimes this is a bit overwhelming with the red, yellow, and green, so sometimes just the green and red is a little bit better, so I'm just going to do that. And then so the darker greens are the higher projections. Yeah, so that's just a way to kind of make it look a little bit cleaner and nicer, and you can just kind of mess around with it and add as many things as you want.